Greetings. Hello, everyone. It is Chip Towers of Dog Nation back for another episode of Towers Take Live on Facebook. Glad you could be with me this rainy afternoon. It's rainy, at least here in Athens, Georgia. I don't know how it is where you are. At least we had a few days of decent weather, really nice weather. And now the rain's back again. So I hope you're not getting washed away like some of those folks in North Georgia and certainly up the eastern seaboard are. Lots to talk about, as there always is with Georgia athletics. This is a interactive forum, and we like to hear from you guys more than anything else. So I've got your comments queued up here, and I want to hear from you. I'll answer any questions you have as best you can, such as Philip Jordan Wells wants to know who's on first. And that's right. The question is, what's on second? Does anybody remember that Abbott and Costello routine anymore? That was a great one. Tyler Stanfield is on here. He says Georgia's strength is on the O-line is hands down. Yes, it is. If you've been keeping up with Dog Nation, and I know this loyal group that comes on our podcast definitely is. Hey, Ease Brown. Leo Willingham is on here, folks. One of the great editors of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and a huge Falcons fan is tuning in today. Appreciate it, Leo. We appreciate that. Any questions for you, Leo? I can't answer anything about the Falcons, but I can tell you a little bit about Georgia football and Georgia basketball. The former is doing pretty good right now. The latter is not. And Connor Raleigh in the studio is showing you some pictures now. One of them's of Andrew Thomas. So we're in the midst, I am in the midst of a extensive, comprehensive series, a spring football primer analysis that is running from now to the first day of spring practice, which we just got official word yesterday is going to be March 19th, Tuesday, March 19th. We were pretty sure it was going to be the week of March 18th. And the actual first day on the field at Woodruff practice fields is going to be, March 19th. They'll have 15 spring practices as they always do, and we are breaking it down on Dog Nation position by position. We started with the center position. Centers seemed like a good place to start, especially with Lamont Galliard going out. And then whomever is going to come in, and then we're breaking it down, position by position. And we went with the guards, we went with the tackles today, and when you talk about the tackles, you've got to talk about that guy right there, Andrew Thomas, a rising junior. And I talked to Matt Stinchcomb, the great Matt Stinchcomb, who's a great tackle in his own right. Who always talks about that he is given accolades way beyond what his abilities were. But he was an All-American, an academic All-American, a two-time All-American at offensive tackle for Georgia in the 1990s. Then his brother John came along. He agrees that Andrew Thomas could be one of the greatest ever to play the position at Georgia. Now, I ran a list on Dog Nation, and you can go there and see it. There's been a lot of All-Americans at the tackle position for Georgia, 9 that I counted in what I call the modern era, which is really Vince Dooley's day on. Really even getting back there in the 60s and 70s, those guys playing tackle were playing kind of a different position than it is now. I agree with Ken Feinberg that Trey Hill is in line to be the center. I mean, he certainly played well, and I listed him as the most likely to be the center. But, as always, Sam Pittman is going to experiment with a lot of different combinations until he gets the best one. So, Trey Hill also started 4 games at right guard. Is he better at that position? And Warren Erickson or Jamari Sawyer or somebody better off at center. A lot of options Georgia has there. They even Clay Webb, who ranked as one of the top centers in the country, though most of the feedback I get is that he's going to play guard for Georgia, but who knows? And we do know they'll mix and match like crazy. The other tackle there that I touch on as well is Isaiah Wilson. So that is really one of the most solidified positions that Georgia has on its roster overall, maybe next to quarterback, is your tackles. And between Andrew Thomas and Isaiah Wilson, Georgia has two really good ones. And the combination therein may be one of the best that Georgia's had. Georgia's had great tackles. They don't always earn All-America honors either. I mean, Chris Terry and Jonas Jennings played with Matt Stinchcomb, and neither one of them got All-SEC, or they might have gotten All-SEC, but didn't get All-America honors, and they were great players. I mentioned Trenton Sturdivant in my piece about greatest tackles that Georgia's had. Remember, do you guys, let me see some thumbs up if you remember Trenton Sturdivant. He was from North Carolina and started every game for Georgia at left tackle as a true freshman. Now, even Andrew Thomas, he started as a true freshman. He started at right tackle. Left tackle, a little more difficult to play. And Trenton Sturdivant not only played it in 2007 when Georgia finished as number 2 team in the country, but he dominated the position. As Georgia went 11-2 that year and finished number 2, knee injuries hurt him. Philip Wells is bringing up 77. I assume he's talking to Isaiah Wynn. What a fantastic player Isaiah was. Played guard most of his career, and Georgia, Sam Pittman and Kirby Smart took a chance on I wouldn't say took a chance. I mean, based on everything they saw in practice, he was going to be their best option at left tackle. Not only does he earn All-American, All-SEC honors, but he's the number 1 pick of the not a number 1 pick, a first-round pick of the New England Patriots. Jerry still remembers. He's talking about 2 ACLs, Matt Turner. What in the world I don't know what in the world you're talking about. Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. The Florida Dancer, okay, reference to the New England Patriots. Tim Harrell wants to know what the latest on Zeus is. The latest on Zeus is he's getting well fast, and Jeff Sentell actually has a really good story kind of updating and talking about Zamir White with some people that know that kid real well. So be sure and go on to Dog Nation and click on that. Jeff's done a great job. We've been cranking it out on Dog Nation. It may be February, but we never stop. And a lot of good stuff is coming. Mike Griffith, in fact, left this morning for the NFL Combine, and he'll be doing some live reports. He's going to get Elijah Holyfield, DeAndre Walker, and some of those other guys in the interview sessions today. And we'll be following our Georgia guys real closely. Excuse me. And of course, we're not, so the Combine's going on. I believe there's 10 Georgia players at the Combine, and they are going to also have Pro Day at Georgia on March 20th. So, we don't just follow your dogs while they're here in Athens. We follow them all the way into the NFL, just like we did with Nick Chubb, Roquan Smith, and Sony Michel, and Todd Gurley. Same thing with the next wave of guys, because Dog Nation, we're your comprehensive Georgia coverage provider. But yeah, Eric Forster says, can't wait for Zeus to do his thing. Now, I've talked about this before. Yes, Spud, John Theus was good. Spud Haynes talked about John Theus was a very good tackle until injuries. And, he was a 5-star tackle. People forget about that. He certainly came highly advertised, as they say. Riley Ridley, another one of the players that Mike Griffith is going to be talking to up there in Indianapolis at the Combine. So you'll be seeing that stuff show up throughout the day today. My next installment on the spring practice series is tight ends, which I think is a very intriguing position for Georgia in 2019. We'll get into the details there, but obviously Charlie Warner is going to be the man, and Georgia got some well-needed help in a transfer from Tennessee that's going to help them in that position. And then we're going to move on down the line. Now, we won't necessarily, examine every single position. Like, for instance, when we move over to the defense, we will discuss defensive line kind of as a whole, not necessarily nose guard, tackle, end. Though we could do it like that, but I'm trying to get it to finish on the first day of practice. Now that it's Tuesday, I might do interior and then perimeter defensive line, and then we'll go into inside linebackers, outside linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties. I'm going to give you the special teams in between the offense and the defense, and we'll finish up with the defense, which is obviously an area of great import for the Bulldogs in 2019. Tim Harrell, yes, I do feel like Naturi Johnson will remain on the defensive line. Just looking, examining these if you just go back and read what I wrote, and look, y'all, part of this is certainly to give you guys information about the team, but I'm studying up as well. So when I get into these position examinations and analysis, I'm digging in myself, and it's there's players you forget about, there's walk-ons that you might have overlooked, there's a lot of things like that, and Naturi Johnson is a guy that maybe a week or so ago I just might not have brought him up in a conversation about Georgia's defensive line. He's probably going to figure into things. Georgia needs help over there, and as my examination of the offensive line uncovered here this week, Georgia's pretty well set on the O-line. They got a lot of good players. They got new players coming in this year. Warren McClendon at the tackle position, Xavier Truss, Clay Webb, who could play center or guard, relatively small at 6'3", 290 for today's, and certainly in comparison to most of Georgia's O-line. But that's going to be an interesting position to see. So I think, yes, to answer your question, I think Naturi will stay on the defensive line. John William Adams says, I like Mike's interviews with coaches and players when they are not fed what to say. Hey, we do too. It's interesting fan reaction. I try not to complain too much about access, but access is a complaint for those of us that do what we do in the press, and I'm always kind of taken aback by readers who sort of say you don't need to know, and whatever Kirby wants he gets, and y'all, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've gone from when back in the day when it was total access. You watched all of practice. You talked to anybody you wanted to after practice. You made your own conclusions about who was playing or should be playing based on what you saw in practice that you watched, for hours every day, to what we have today, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. The limited number of time, and I don't care what you say. It does not give a team an advantage over another team to limit the access, to send the same players out over and over to talk. We want to tell the stories. And so it was somewhat newsworthy this week when Barry Odom at Missouri made it known that all their spring practices will be open and all players will be available to be interviewed, because he said he wants the press to be able to tell his players' stories. And there are, 85 scholarship players. All of them have a story that deserves to be told. Nobody's giving anything away, especially in spring. But even during the season, I mean, I just think it's the control and everything is paranoid. I know the Bill Belichick and Nick Saban model is what everybody likes and is following right now. Look, it's in my best interest that Georgia does well also. But, I think access is something that, all Americans need. And if you're playing football at the University of Georgia, then you should be worthy. All these guys, they talk to the press the whole time through high school as they get built up into big, well-known recruits, and then finally, become college football players. And then suddenly, they're incapable of talking to the press, and they want them to focus, but I've never seen an interview that made somebody lose focus on their training. So anyway, that's my little 2 cents on that. Eric Gillespie says, I think Brenton Cox becomes dominant this season. I don't know if he does. He needs to. Brenton Cox certainly played well and was among the best of what's an extremely talented group of outside linebackers, young outside linebackers that defensive coordinator Dan Lanning will be overseeing. But there was also a considerable drop-off last year, and I think you saw it markedly in the SEC championship game when DeAndre Walker went out with that groin injury, and Brenton Cox came in, and Georgia had a really, really tough time containing Jalen Hurts. Now, they may have struggled with DeAndre Walker in there as well, but Cox and Adam Anderson and all those young outside linebackers, and they'll certainly be pushed this year by a lot of the new guys coming in. Obviously, everybody wants to get a look at Nolan Smith. Spud Haynes says, watch out for Tyler Clark. Hey, I was watching out for him this past season. There was a curious lack of dominance by Tyler Clark this past season. When you think back to how he finished up his sophomore year, unbelievable Rose Bowl he had, and he's gonna really have to be the man for Georgia on the interior defensive front this year. Of course, Jordan Davis has come a long way to help Georgia at nose guard. They need more. Jamel Major went and read that story on Zamir White, and it hasn't pumped up. So that's one of those stories that's going to get your juices flowing, and I highly recommend it. We've only got a few minutes left here. We're having a kind of a compressed program today. I got started late. It's my fault. I was doing some interviews on the phone and couldn't get free. But real quickly, did anybody see the basketball game last night? Just another heartbreaker. Georgia loses to a late three-pointer by Auburn, 78-75. Had a lead a little bit there 3 times in the last 10 minutes of the game, and then had it tied up inside the final 30 seconds, and Auburn's Chuma Okiki hits a three-pointer fall away, and Georgia can't get off a shot and loses another heartbreaker. I'm fine, thank you, Stephen Carr. Thanks for asking. Eddie Todd says, come on, April. Can't wait for G-Day. It'll be here before you know it, believe me. Chad Thomas Black predicts that the JUCO transfer will wreak some havoc. I assume you're talking about the defensive back. What's his name? DJ Daniel, I think. Yeah, they're going to need some help in the secondary. It's going to get real interesting when we get over to the defensive side of the ball, so you'll be able to hear all about that at Dog Nation. Got a Towers Tape coming up with Dog Nation later today. We'll continue with the football series. Eric Gillespie says the basketball team will get where it needs to be under Crean. Here's the thing, guys. Think about this for a minute. Georgia sets a single season total attendance record. So it's helped by the number of games. The average, they had more in a couple of seasons of average per game. But they have more people watch Georgia basketball in 2018 and 2019 overall than any other time in the history of Georgia basketball. And they happen to be having a record losing streak, 13 in a row or 12 in a row, whatever it is, 13 in a row in SEC play, 1-14 overall. There's a chance Georgia might not win another one. Maybe they'll get one against Missouri next week, or they're at Florida this weekend. But they have gotten so much closer. Philip Wells talking about big shot by Claxton, and then darn shame that Kiki Chuma Okiki makes the winning shot there. A lot of Atlanta guys on that, and I'll have a little take on that later today, talking about the recruiting competition between Auburn and Georgia. That's a pretty intense rivalry, the Auburn-Georgia basketball is as well. Stephen Carr predicts a good year in basketball next year, and it needs to be. Ant-Man's on the way, and there's some other guys coming too, y'all. Recruiting is really heated up for Georgia. It's going to be interesting to see how these fall over the next few weeks. Georgia will have at least 2 more signees and maybe 3 before this class gets over. So that's it. Give me we got 1 minute here, so any final questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. But y'all, there's a ton of stuff coming at you on Dog Nation, so keep your app fired up. If you don't have the app, upload it on your phone. You got BA's podcast. He's got the another one coming up later today. Michael Carvel, Connor Riley, me, Jeff Sintel, and Mike Griffith at the Combine, all providing you with as much as you could possibly read on Georgia athletics, baseball as well. Unfortunate death of their College World Series MVP, Mike Reben, yesterday. You can read about that as well. Guys, you can go pay subscriptions at other places if you want to, but you're not going to ever get more than you get here. More comprehensive, better, well-written stuff than you're going to get right here at Dog Nation. And those of you that are here regularly, I thank you very much. We appreciate it. Tell your friends, get the app, and thanks for everything. Will Claxton go NBA? Good question, Mike Bennett. He will. I don't think he will this season. I think Nicholas is pretty excited about getting 1 more year under Crean. Now, he could possibly turn pro as a junior. There's a lot of scouts at Georgia's games looking at him, but he is something. Mary Justice says she's been to the Steg for 5 games, and she's really excited about what is to come. Loves Nick Claxton. Really amazing what Creaney's done in this season, despite all the losses and all the losing. And he is a big, as you know or you don't know, a huge football fan. Tom Crean is. He's married into the Harbaugh family. His wife Joni, his brothers were Jim and John, and their father, and he knows football. He loves football, and he believes that he can do what he did at Indiana and Marquette here at Georgia in the football program. You're quite welcome, Bill Radford. It's my pleasure to keep you guys updated on the Dogs. Sorry for a little bit of a late start today and a little bit of a compressed program. We just kind of wing it here in the off season. We'll be a little bit more regimented when we get back into the fall, but lots of good stuff coming on Dog Nation. So thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks to Connor Riley for spinning those dials back in the studio, and all the Dog Nation team. We will see you in the Dog Nation pages on the other side. Thanks, y'all, for hanging out. Till next time.